For decades, outdoor enthusiasts have been sold on the idea that survival depends on buying the latest, most innovative fire starter. Metallic rods, magnesium blocks, paraffin cubes, or overpriced tinder tabs. But in reality, one of the most effective fire-starting materials is something nearly every household throws away daily. It's not fancy, not high-tech, and yet it burns longer, hotter and more reliably than many store-bought products. Before diving into this forgotten survival trick, it's worth knowing that this humble item has been used by soldiers, trappers and frontiersmen for over a century. The secret lies not in chemistry, but in understanding how the simplest materials behave under heat and moisture. Old paper-based trash, specifically cardboard egg cartons, lint from the dryer and candle wax scraps, form the foundation of one of the best fire starters ever devised. When combined correctly, they create compact ignition pods that outperform most commercial fire cubes. During World War II, soldiers stationed in frigid camps used similar handmade fire starters to ignite wet wood or frozen kindling when no dry tinder could be found. Even with snow on the ground, a single wax-soaked carton cell could sustain a flame for minutes, long enough to bring damp twigs or logs to life. The trick is simple. Fill each cell of a used egg carton with dryer lint or shredded paper, then pour melted candle wax over it until the lint is saturated. Once cooled and hardened, tear off individual pods as needed. Each one burns steadily, resisting wind and moisture, making it ideal for emergencies or backcountry cooking setups. Unlike commercial fire starters, which often crumble or dry out over time, these homemade pods remain viable for years if stored in a sealed tin. Modern store-bought fire starters rely on compressed paraffin and chemical accelerants to maintain a steady flame. While effective, they often burn too quickly or release fumes that taint nearby food and cookware. The homemade variety, on the other hand, achieves slow, consistent combustion because it balances airflow and wax saturation. The fibrous structure of lint or cardboard traps oxygen between the fibers, while the wax controls the burn rate. This combination mimics how old-time soldiers prepared their own field tinder, mixing natural fibers with animal fat or candle drippings for a steady flame. When the wax melts, it doesn't flash like fuel. It seeps deeper into the fibers, sustaining a slow, controlled burn. That's why one small pod can keep going for up to 10 minutes, even in wind or light rain. This balance makes it invaluable for lighting damp wood or starting a campfire after a storm. And because it's made from household waste, it's entirely renewable. For anyone serious about off-grid preparedness, this method replaces the need to continually buy or pack bulky fire-starting kits. Start with a paper-based egg carton. Plastic or foam will not work. Fill each cell loosely with dryer lint, shredded brown paper, or even small sawdust shavings. Avoid glossy magazine paper or synthetic fabrics as they don't burn cleanly. Next, melt leftover candle stubs, birthday candles, or even the wax from broken tea lights in a small tin can, placed in a pot of simmering water. Carefully pour the melted wax over the lint in each cell until fully coated but not overflowing. Let the carton cool completely, then cut or tear the pods apart. For field-ready storage, pack them in an old tobacco tin or a metal first aid box, anything that keeps them dry. If you're preparing them for long-term survival kits, wrap each pod in wax paper to prevent sticking. One pod is usually enough to start a fire, but if you're lighting wet wood, place 2 or 3 under the kindling to extend the burn. This simple system works everywhere, from lighting a backyard grill without lighter fluid to starting a fire in sub-zero conditions. In fact, many cold-weather trappers still rely on this exact combination when modern fire starters fail to ignite under damp or windy conditions. The origins of this method stretch back to the mid-20th century, when military field manuals described using waste materials soaked in wax or grease as reliable ignition aids. Soldiers during the Second World War often scavenged wax from spent candles and combined it with ration box cardboard or cloth scraps. This was not just convenience, it was necessity. When stationed in wet or snowy terrain, standard matches and kindling were often useless. These wax tinder bundles became a lifeline for warmth, food preparation, and, even morale. Trappers and explorers later adapted the same principle, replacing military wax with animal fat or rendered tallow. The science never changed. Absorbent fibre plus a slow-burning fuel equals sustained heat. The idea survived into civilian survivalism because it simply worked. And while commercial industries tried to reinvent the wheel with synthetic alternatives, old-school methods like this still outperformed them under real-world conditions. For preppers, campers and backyard tinkerers alike, mastering this wax and fibre method means freedom from dependency on manufactured products. It costs nothing, it reuses household waste, and it aligns perfectly with historical ingenuity. There's also a practical environmental side. By converting lint and wax waste into functional fire starters, you cut down on synthetic fire gel packaging and disposable products. In a real emergency, being able to create reliable fire from what's around you is more than convenience. It's survival knowledge. The fact that soldiers and explorers trusted this trick through freezing winters and wet jungles says enough about its reliability. Whether you're building a campfire in the rain, lighting a stove in a power outage, or teaching self-reliance to younger generations, this method embodies the same spirit that kept frontiersmen and wartime scouts alive. Every survivalist or history-minded outdoorsman should try this method firsthand. It connects practical self-sufficiency with time-tested knowledge that modern gear can't replace. The next time you clean your lint trap or find a burned-down candle stub, remember that you're holding the makings of one of the best fire starters ever designed. For more forgotten skills like this, bushcraft, wartime tricks and practical survival knowledge passed down through generations, subscribe to Backyard Wisdom. Share this video with someone who loves history, self-reliance, or just the art of doing more with less. The old ways still work, and they're worth keeping alive.